Rise up!
This is the Rise Up See Red podcast, all about the Arizona Cardinals and the NFL, featuring insider and outsider perspectives. Enjoy the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Now here are your hosts, Jess Root and Seth Cox.
Hello, Arizona Cardinals fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the Rise Up See Red podcast, the best our Cardinals talk on the web. I'm your host, Jess Root from CardsWire.com, USA Today's NFL Wire site from covering the Arizona Cardinals. With me for the fourth episode of the week, Seth Cox from RevengeOfTheVirds.com, SB Nation's Arizona Cardinals site, and as we have episode 746, and this is not Cardinals based at all. We are talking about, this is our picks and prediction show. We've got two games this weekend, the AFC and the NFC Championship Games. Seth, it's definitely not Cardinals, but we've got some big games. We got some big games for sure. One that doesn't feel particularly competitive, and one that is super intriguing as we go into the AFC Championship game, where it's going to be Jarrett Stidham starting for the Denver Broncos against the Patriots. Both teams went 14-3. I mean, does Denver have an actual chance?
You know, I was talking to my buddies about this, and the discussion came up, and one of them actually said, I'm taking Denver on the points. And I'm like, I want to. I really do, because, you know, we talked a little bit about it last episode, but, man, the number one seed at home being, it's moved slightly on FanDuel, at least 4.5 point underdogs is kind of wild to think about, right? But they have not run the ball well recently. And that's what my concern is over everything else in this game. You look at this game, you have New England, who comes in off a fairly impressive defensive effort against the Houston Texans, who are the sixth best rushing defense in the NFL. And by the way, they are average, slightly above 13th in yards per attempt, right? So it's not like they just shut the run game down completely. But, man, just the last three games against the Dolphins, 63 yards rushing. Against the Chargers, 87 yards rushing. And then against the Texans, 48 yards rushing. That's like insanely impressive. And then on the flip side, the Broncos ran for 70 yards. Now, I know the Bills had one of the best rush defenses in the NFL, but they just, oh no, I'm sorry, they had one of the worst. That's what
they did. That's where, especially down the stretch, which made that interesting, to say the least.
Right. And so you look at it,
but they did, I will, in fairness, they closed the year much better. So they were bad for a lot of the year, but they were just inconsistent, because they held the Eagles to 82, the Jets to 69. They got run all over by Jacksonville, 154, and then held the Broncos to 70. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. How much of that was Buffalo? But you look at it. I mean, look at how the Patriots played against the Chargers and against the Texans. In neither game was their opponent competitive. And now they're going up a backup quarterback. I know Sean Payton feels that Jarrett Stidham is kind of like Bruce Arians is Drew Stanton and Cliff Kingsbury's Colt McCoy. But the stakes are much higher.
They are, and man, like, again, you're talking just about you have to, again, I think if we had seen the Broncos be able to run competently against the Bills, we'd feel a little better, right? Like, you kind of look at that and you go, all right, they might be without their quarterback, but man, their rush offense is just so dominant, so dominant. But when you have to get stops and put the ball in your backup quarterback, I mean, that's just asking to lose a game. I will say this: their defense has played, well enough to win games. A lot. This last week was not their best defensive effort. They did force 5 turnovers, which is fantastic. But they also gave up 450 yards of offense, 183 yards rushing on the ground. It wasn't like 2 weeks before where they beat the Chargers and only gave up 217 yards, or the week before that where they beat the Kansas City Chiefs, who were not at full. Oh no, that's the one that Mahomes got hurt, and they only had 139 yards from scrimmage. Like, this defense this year, I mean, think about this, Jess. This is probably the most boom or bust defense I can remember in my life. They have 3 games where they've given up over 400 yards. By the way, they're 2-1 in those games. Okay. But they also have 5 games, Jess, where they've given up under 200 yards. Those games were against the Raiders, the Bengals, the Chiefs, the Titans, and the Jets. So it's not exactly like they were playing a murderer's row of talent there. That Bengals game was a Jake Browning game, for those that are curious. So again, is this a week that you get a dominant defense? Is this a week you get a defense that doesn't show up? Or is this a week where you get, all those games in the middle where they're very average and they put the impetus on their offense? I know we've talked a lot about the Broncos, but let's be honest, that's what this is. That's the question mark of this game. It's not at all the Patriots, right? Like, if the Patriots turn the ball over, it definitely gives the Broncos a better chance. But man, I just can't bring myself to pick a Jarrett Stidham led team.
No. How bad do you think it is? My pick for this game, I think it's going to be 24-13. 24-13. So you take the Pats to win, to cover, and for the under to hit in this game.
And I would go 21-14. So I'm right around there with you. Pats to win, to cover, and on the under.
So let's look at some props for this game. And the way things are going, I'm going to say right now, let's do New England defensive touchdown, defense or special teams at plus 450, because that defense against Jarrett Stidham, it's bound to happen, in my opinion. And so I think that's for me, that's your best risky bet, right? In terms of things that happen at plus 450 to take the New England defense special teams to score.
Yeah, I like that one quite a bit. You look at it, there's a couple interesting ones. And by the way, the Patriots defense scores plus 600 on FanDuel, anytime touchdown. So slightly better odds if you're a FanDuel person. It's always good to get those better odds in these situations. I do like Stidham over 13.5 rushing yards. That's minus 114. I again, we're talking about, I saw a crazy stat that no quarterback scrambles out of pressure and takes less sacks than Bo Nix. So what I'm going to apply to that is 2 things. One, we're going to get Jarrett Stidham rushing yards, right? Like, he's going to scramble for rushing yards. 2, I'm taking Jarrett Stidham to throw an interception. Because the thing with Nix is this: getting out of pressure and getting rid of the ball or running, that is I don't want to oversell it, but it's close to an elite talent. And what I mean by that is we've seen Kyler avoid a lot of negative plays, right? Being able to avoid negative plays is such a hard thing for quarterbacks to do, and the best ones do it on the biggest stage. Jarrett Stidham's a backup. The guy he's replacing does it better than anybody else. That's an unfair and unrealistic expectation to expect a backup to do the same thing. So give me Stidham's over in his rushing yards and for him to throw an interception. By the way, the interception, the interception props, terrible odds. Minus 170.
Minus 190.
Yeah, terrible.
Now the rushing yards for Stidham on the over-under for BetMGM, over 15.5 yards is plus 105. So that if you want to jump on that before those odds change, that wouldn't be a bad idea. The rushing props for the Patriots is tough because you never know who's going to end up playing more. Is it going to be Henderson? Is it going to be Ramondre Stevenson? So if we kind of look at,
I swore I saw a report, but maybe it was last week about Stevenson being banged up. Was that true? Did I miss something?
I don't remember, but I do remember that they on the television broadcast they announced Travion Henderson as a starter, and you know who was in the game starting? It was Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah, and so it's one of those games. I'm with you, man. I don't. There's no way you can bet wide receivers in this. But let me ask you this: how do you feel about Stephon Diggs and his props? Do you think he scores again this week?
I think that's not a bad bet. I mean, honestly, that's not a bad way to go.
Especially, he just found out he's had 4 kids this year now. I mean, he's going to be super excited about that, right? Oh, these guys are crazy. But yeah, I mean, I really like the Patriots in terms of scoring, and I like the Patriots in terms of stopping the Broncos. Outside of Stidham, I really don't like anything this week.
Well, I haven't seen this. I have not seen defensive props in a long time. And so if you want to look at, but there was only tackles and assists. And what can we get that looks all right? I think the best one would be to go with PJ Locke at over 5.5 tackles because you get that in even odds for that. That's combined tackles and assists.
There's a couple interesting ones. I would stay away from the Patriots sacks just because it's tough. But Zach Allen to get a sack plus 148. If you want to take a poke at who intercepts Jarrett Stidham, the one I would stay away from is Christian Gonzalez. I'd be shocked if he attacked Christian Gonzalez, wouldn't you? It would be kind of
that'd be a weird game plan for a backup quarterback.
But Marcus Jones at plus 700, I like that one.
Nice. Let's talk about the second game. Coming up next on the Rise of Sierra podcast, the Best of Cardinals Talk on the Web. Let's move on and talk about the NFC Championship game where you get the NFC West game. Seattle Seahawks hosting the Los Angeles Rams. It's coming next on Rise of Sierra. We're back on the Rise of Sierra podcast, the Best of Cardinals Talk on the Web. Is now we talk about the NFC Championship game where we get the Seahawks and the Rams in Seattle in the late afternoon, the 6:30 Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Arizona time kickoff, where you've got the 2.5 point favorite Seahawks against the Rams. Now, this is a crazy. Now, I'm going to pick the Rams simply because I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. There is an interesting dichotomy with this. You have a Seahawks team that is stomping the life out of people early in games and playing dominantly, and a Rams team that likes to dink around and mess around for the first half and first 3 quarters, but is elite closing games. And again, do we come to the point where is this the Sam Darnold pumpkin game? Is this where Matthew Stafford puts the team on his back and then leads his team to the Super Bowl game, cementing that legacy? Can the Rams pass rushers impact Sam Darnold? And can they counter that run game? Now, the run game took a hit for Seattle. Their touchdown scorer is Zach Charbonnet. He's done. And so it's Ken Walker and George Halani. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic. Walker had 116 yards and 3 touchdowns in the game last week against the 49ers. So while I predict the Rams to win, it's not with really any confidence, because while the Rams look like the more talented team, the Seahawks have been playing the best football.
Yeah, nobody's playing as well as the Seahawks, right? Like, they've just been playing at such a high level, and we've seen such an uptick of that defense too. Now, I will say this: the Rams game, the last Rams Seahawks game that went to overtime, was really interesting because I think you would agree with me. It felt like the Rams kind of had that one and then gave up 16 in the fourth quarter, right?
Yes.
30-14, and then they give up the 2 touchdowns and 2 2-point conversions. And then they give up the 2-point conversion for the Seahawks to win it in 38-37. The interesting thing is, since that game, right? And so, we can look at a couple different things, but since that game, when the Seahawks gave up 37 points, and by the way, that was just 4 games ago, so it's not like we're talking a lot, but 10 points to the Carolina Panthers, which was a must-win game for the Panthers, right? And that was in Carolina, by the way. 139 yards of offense total for the Panthers. 3 points to the 49ers. 173 yards of offense for the Niners. And then last week, 6 points. Jess, they've given up 19 points their last 3 games since they got bludgeoned for 37. What's even more interesting about that is, again, they gave up 30 basically through the first 3 quarters. The Rams scored a minute and a half into the fourth quarter. So they gave up 30 points through the first 3 quarters and a minute and a half. So the last, 20-ish minutes of the game, 20 some odd minutes, including overtime, and then the next 3 games. So basically the last almost 14 quarters of NFL football, they've given up 26 points. That's it, Jess. 26 points. So what are you going to get? Are you going to get this Seattle defense that is playing at a historic level? Or are you going to get a Rams offense that kind of hit a wall last week, but it was in a very snowy, wet, slick, rough field? And by the way, they still put up 340 yards. It was just, 20 points. That was the least amount they had scored since they scored 17 in week 6. It's really hard right now to pick against Seattle because they're just firing on all cylinders. And I think we all, myself included, kind of look at that last game and we're kind of like, oh, this is going to be the expectation of how the game's going to be again. It'll be 4:30 in Seattle. Obviously, it's outdoor weather, right? You've got it's going to be mostly, cloudy, but it'll be in the mid
40s, I think is expected.
Mid to low 40s. Man, it's just, is this a game where the Rams offense can overcome how good the Seattle defense is playing? I'll be contrarian. I'll take the Seahawks. I'll take them to win and cover. And I think, oh gosh, dude, I don't know. 24-20 Seattle wins this game. And by the way, I don't like it at all. Like I wouldn't bet the spread or the total in this one if I'm actually.
I'll take the Rams in this one. Last second field goal, 24-23. So they will just clip the over in that game, 24-23.
That's how unconfident both of us are in the over/under. Do not play that. Don't do it. It's just it's not worth it.
No, that's crazy. But anytime touchdown scores, who do we like?
I mean, we got to kind of go chalky with Walker and Williams, right?
Yes.
And then the question becomes, do you go Smith and Jigba and Nakua, or does Adams get going finally?
This might be the game where because Devontae Adams was so good scoring touchdowns earlier in the year before he got hurt. So, yeah, and honestly, the touchdown scores, there's not great odds. I mean, Ken Walker's minus 165. That's a terrible terrible value.
Right. You can get a minus 150, but again, it's not worth it. I don't think they're going to kick to Rashid Shaheed. So if you guys took advantage of that last week, good job. We called that one.
I like Colby Parkinson.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are his odds? Because they're still bad.
It's plus 310 for
okay. Yeah, plus 320. So, man, they're just like taking all the juice out of these odds. These scoring odds. Are we going pass touchdowns or rush touchdowns? Because if you like 2 Sam Darnold passing touchdowns, you can get that minus 112 right now on FanDuel. It's over 1.5. Again, I'm not sure if I would go with that. The ones I would go with are I'm taking both Nakua and Smith and Jigba's over. I know it's tough because they're both right around 90 yards, but man, those guys have just been unreal this year. It's one of those kind of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of things. I'm just going to keep running that to that well until it dries up.
Yeah, you've got to feel like you're going to hit the over with Matthew Stafford because he had exactly 2 games in the regular season where he didn't throw 2 touchdown passes. And after each game he did that. Now he went without a touchdown pass against the Bears. So trend-wise, you're not going to see that a second week in a row. He only had 1 touchdown in the season opener, and then in week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 it was against Baltimore. And the rest were 2 or more. So now, granted, the over 1.5 touchdown passes for Stafford is minus 130. I wanted to see it because the under is plus 100, but how he's played all year and the way they run that offense, it would be hard to go with the under on that one. And Sam Darnold's literally even at both minus 115 for both over and under 1.5. So pick your poison, man. Pick your poison. Though I think give me the under on Sam Darnold's passing yards at 235.5.
Yeah, and the other one I really like, I'm going to stick with Shaheed. I like his over in rushing yards. It's over 4.5. It's minus 108. It's probably the best odds we're going to get in this game, and just in terms of guys that are going to touch the ball, right?
Yeah, there's the Like if you wanna go crazy, it's Matthew Stafford for a positive like for over a half yard is plus 155, but no.
Did you see? Did you
likely
see that better that had his over for rush yards a couple weeks ago, and then he knelt down and lost it
no.
because it's always a half a yard, so that's why it's fun.
Also, Nakua. I mean, it's not great value, but over 4.5 rushing yards at minus 130. He's good for a couple of jet sweeps a game.
Yeah, I agree with that. Nakua is over 4.5 minus 130. Same here. So, yeah, and you could parlay both of those guys, right? You could go Nakua and Shaheed. They're both going to get at least one carry. So you're just banking on them, getting 5 yards on their one carry at least. And if they do that, you can parlay those on FanDuel at plus 226. So, juice your odds a little bit.
When we look at the kicking odds aren't great. So if I'm saying 24-23, that's saying 3 touchdowns for the Rams. So if you like that, you can get Harrison Mevis over 2.5 extra points made at plus 115. But that's if you like them to score 24. The receiving props they're not easy. If you're looking at receptions, I like Colby Parkinson over 2.5, but it's not a super value at minus 145. If Devontae, maybe this is the one you want to do this one because Devontae Adams over 4.5 catches for plus 120. That's something that's viable and valuable.
Kobe Turner had 1.5 sacks last game. He is plus 194 to have a sack in this one. So I like that. And then Leonard Williams has been really kind of forcing the issue lately, playing at a high level. Leonard Williams is plus 225 to have a sack in this game. Those are the two kind of defensive special teams ones I like.
Anything else? I mean, anything else you think is worth looking at in this game? This game is too hard for me to pick too many things. The defenses, both defenses can be dominant, but they also have good offenses. And so is it going to be the gross low scoring game, or is this going to look like that 38-37 overtime game? That's the thing we don't know.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful that we get a competitive kind of back and forth, but high scoring with some impressive defensive plays. That's what I'm hoping for because I really think we're going to get I don't want to say a bad game, but
the first game's it shouldn't be fun.
Yeah,
it'll be ugly.
I genuinely hope it's more interesting than it looks like.
Yeah. All right. That will wrap up the week. 4 different shows. That wraps up this edition of the Rise of Zero podcast, the best of Cardinals talk on the web. We'll be back next week. Then we will surely have something new in the coaching developments, and then we can start talking more about the offseason. We'll have a little bit before the Super Bowl, but we can talk more then. That's Seth Cox. I'm Jess Root. Thanks for listening. As always, we'll be back again soon.
Thanks for listening to the latest edition of the Rise Up, See Red podcast. Listen to previous episodes and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Audioboom, or many other podcast platforms so shows are delivered directly to your mobile device. Please give the show a 5-star rating and always support the sponsors who support the show. We'll be back soon for the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Rise up, Red Sea, be Red, See Red, and of course, Rise up, See Red.
Roll!